Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So Virginia, the elections are going to be taking place there in just a few weeks on election day, and they are really heating up. You have the governor's race, you have the lieutenant governor's race. Democrats are expected to flip both of those as it stands now, although they could be getting closer as the attorney general's race is just really becoming front and center. And reverse coattails are not entirely something that is all that real. However, when something like this sucks so much energy out of the room, when a scandal is this egregious, where the Democrat nominee for attorney general is calling for and just fantasizing about the death of his political opponent and former colleagues' children, who are just several years old, calling them little fascists, saying that, political violence is the only thing that he believes could bring about change. There's just so much dirt on this guy. There already was dirt on him. He's corrupt. He got into a DUI, which I don't think is that big of a deal. But then for his community service, he just, worked for his own firm. It was not real community service, but they let him get away with it anyways. But you have a new poll from Trafalgar. And Trafalgar, it's a little spotty. They were not really all that great in 2022, but they were not bad in 2024 and were very accurate in 2021 in the state of Virginia. Abigail Spanberger is only at 48%. Winsome Sears is trailing, but she's only trailing by a few points. And there's been several polls that show this race close. And by every metric, the Democrats should be running away with that because they're outspending the Republican candidate by a ridiculous margin. And on top of it, you have Abigail Spanberger, who is from like that DC swamp, and the DC swamp is just amped up and furious at the current administration because the current administration is actually trying to take a chainsaw, metaphorically speaking, to the deep state, and Spanberger kind of represents that. And Winsome Sears has kind of ran a lackluster campaign, although recently I think she's gotten a little bit better. Lieutenant governor's race, the Democrat candidate seems a little weak, but the Republican candidate has some scandals of his own, but they're more just like comical scandals than seriously like outrageous things where the person should be nowhere near the office of attorney general, like Jay Jones's scandal, where he is now trailing 49% to 43% to Jason Miyares, the current common sense, tough on crime, incumbent attorney general who had a shot to win before this and now is really starting to pull away, and he has established himself as the favorite. And when you look at the polls, it's not just Trafalgar. Signal, which technically has an R next to the name, but still it's not really much of a right-leaning pollster, right after the text messages leaked, which again, there's still a few weeks of airwaves with those text messages playing across the state of Virginia that probably caused Miyares to surge. He was up by 2, and then the previous poll conducted by the campaign of Jay Jones showed him leading by 1%, which again, if you want to look at Trafalgar, that is a shift of 10 points from where the race was before. And that's a similar thing we're seeing in a lot of these other polls. And when it comes down to Virginia, you could look at the betting odds here. The Republicans were not favored in this race. They were not. In fact, if you look at the attorney general's race, for much of the year, they were down there at, 12%. Chance of victory, and now they're up to 60%. The Democrats have fallen from like being close to being in the 90s. Now they're all the way down at 44, and they are falling by the day. As we record this video, the odds are falling. This is on Kalshi. You guys can join Kalshi and place your bets if you are legally able to do so and claim $10 free in the process to use as credit. The link will be in the description and pinned comment for that. But regardless, the betting odds are really showcasing the race just tightening, and not only tightening, but the Republicans are starting to pull ahead, which is huge. And as for the other races here, it is impacting the governor's race because it's become an issue that's front and center. This is not North Carolina where people are going to vote for the president and the governor's race happens to be on the ballot, and Mark Robinson did some funny things and had some outlandish views on certain things 5-10 years ago, and the Republicans actually called for him to drop out. It didn't impact the race, even though it hurt down ballot from that point. But, Republicans were calling on Mark Robinson to drop out because he posted some lewd comments 15 years ago on a website called Nude Africa. Yet the Democrats are not calling on Jay Jones to drop out because they happen to stick together even when their people are being violent and abhorrent, which is why it will even be remotely competitive in that race. And it is just disgusting. You see what this guy's saying, the text messages, and then you have him reportedly saying that, police officers dying might be beneficial to the country, which what does that tell me? It tells me that you should be nowhere near the Department of Justice, let alone leading it in the state of Virginia. Maybe the Department of Justice in the correctional facility in Virginia or a mental asylum. But regardless, the Democrats, they don't care. This is how they operate. You could look at this. Henrico County Democrats, a major county party, saying Jay Jones's old text messages were wrong, and he's owned that publicly and personally. No, he blamed Donald Trump and just said, I said a bunch of things a couple years ago, and everybody, he says, said things like this. It's like, I don't think anybody fantasizes about murdering children less than 5 years old or murdering anybody. But this is just ridiculous. And his apology was a joke of an apology. He didn't mention the person that he should be apologizing to, and he just attacked Donald Trump. And then you look at this further. They say Republicans are weaponizing the moment to distract from their own appalling record. I think that this is appalling on its own, and this isn't being weaponized. This is being discussed because it's disgusting. And that's why Republicans are drawing attention to it, because somebody like that should be nowhere near the Attorney General's post. And then they say, Ultra MAGA Attorney General Jason Miyares. That's a strange nickname. And again, the guy's just doing his job. If locking up criminals is Ultra MAGA, then that's great. What's wrong with Ultra MAGA then? Ultra MAGA is great. And they're like, he's failed to stand up to Trump, and they don't capitalize Trump's name. It's just the petty nonsense that they engage in over illegal tariffs, federal workforce cuts, and defunding public schools. And again, they just throw out all these things here. They want to just hoodwink their voter base. They'll eat it up. It's slop. What is a state governor going to do over tariffs, which are a national policy, or a state attorney general, I should say, but any member of state government? And the federal workforce cuts, really, again, federal, not state, defunding public schools, those are already controlled by the state anyways, like seriously, going on, saying he's done all these horrible things, and the real problem here is Jason Miyares, because he actually wants to put people like Jay Jones in prison. That's what they're getting at here. And it is impacting the Democrat brand. It really is. And you have people like Abigail Spanberger, who is running for governor, and she's leading every poll. And you could look at the betting odds for that race. She's up at 92%. Winsome Sears is at 9. It doesn't really add up to 100, but it's basically she's 90-10. We'll go with 90-10. You could even make the case that maybe given some sort of upset that it'd be a good investment on Sears. I don't know. People would make that claim. As for Spanberger, she is a total sociopath. And I watched the entire debate between her and Winsome Sears, and I think Winsome Sears dropped the ball at times. She interrupted way too much, and you never want to interrupt your opponent when they are making a mistake. That being said, that doesn't mean that the debate was won by Abigail Spanberger, because she absolutely did not answer a question. It was abysmal. And I really think that Winsome Sears dropped the ball by interrupting as much as she did, because at times the debate was a little bit hard to watch. And you don't want to do that because you don't want to take away from the real problem. But still, Winsome Sears did have a few shining moments, to her credit, and this was one of them, because Abigail Spanberger just completely just made everybody who is a normal person just cringe and wince at her antics. Take a listen to this.
That's why I'm wondering why my opponent won't say beyond its abhorrent and disgusting, why she won't say it is not okay and that he must leave the race because Jay Jones advocated the murder, Abigail, the murder of a man, a former speaker, as well as his children who were 2 and 5 years old. You have little girls. What would it take him pulling the trigger? Is that what would do it? And then you would say he needs to get out of the race? Abigail, you have nothing to say? Abigail, what if he said it about your 3 children? Is that when you would say he should get out of the race, Abigail?
She's just sitting there smirking. Like, that's all she's doing. She cannot articulate the fact that this is wrong and say, yeah, he needs to get out of the race. Like that, it doesn't even impact her. It would help her. It would help her if she said he needs to get out of the race, even if he stays in, because he's probably going to lose. And if they throw him under the bus, it's good politics for them. But they can't even do that because they can't contain their, bloodlust. Like, the radical Democrats will just say what a lot of these moderate Democrats think. These are the elitist Democrats. They look down on the Trump voters. We've seen this time and time again in every little leaked thing that we see. In fact, the Jay Jones thing was something that got leaked. But this is how they view a lot of people in the state of Virginia or the country as a whole. The Trump voters, they look down on them with contempt. They think that they're better. They think that these people are a threat, which they are a threat to the establishment, and then they use that to call them names, dehumanize them, justify things like what we see in the Jay Jones text messages or what we see when it comes down to the whole, Charlie Kirk thing and the way the left reacted to that. It was similar because you had many far leftists, and these were tweets with hundreds of thousands of likes, just mocking Charlie Kirk, dancing on his grave, saying all these horrible things about him, lying about him in the process. And the Democrats would, release some boilerplate statement saying, oh, all political violence is wrong. And they'll say Donald Trump needs to stop fanning the flames. It's like, what is Trump doing exactly? Trump's mad his friend got killed, and he's mad that your ilk are celebrating it and you're doing nothing about it. Yeah, Donald Trump has every right to be angry. You people are scum, and hopefully we end up beating these people, but we'll have to see what happens. But the governor's race, it's looking like maybe there's a chance it's closer than expected, but the Democrats are the favorites. In the attorney general's race, thankfully, where it's out in the open, Jason Miyares is headed for the end zone, and he's going to reach it most likely. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video, and hit that hype button if you have it on mobile. Make sure you guys follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.